Hello and welcome to another episode of the DJ Spotlight here on Disc Jockey News TV. His journey began in the late 90s as a drum and bass DJ in Cincinnati. Over the years, exploring other styles, Tom grew into a prolific DJ and producer. Like some of us, after a short hiatus, he returned to the scene and just this past year dropped a collaborative track on the one and only Dirtybird record label. As he continues his career now in the bass-influenced house, techno, and break scene, he continues to stay involved with his local community, and he's here today to not only share his story, but some great tips and tricks for all of y'all trying to thrive and stay relevant. Today we're talking to Tom Reed. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so let's jump right into it. Like me, you actually started in the drum and bass industry. Can you tell us how you made that transition into house music? How did that start? Where did that lead you?
So I've been DJing since 1998, 99. At the time, drum and bass was really big. And I quickly migrated into trance, which was also very big at the time. And then shortly after that, around, I would say 2001, I transitioned into progressive house, bedrock records, that sort of stuff, because that started becoming really popular at the time. And I pretty much stuck with that for till about 2007, and then I moved into minimal techno, and then got back into house in 2015.
I love that you mentioned bedrock because of that Nick Muir interview.
Right.
Yeah, when I saw your comment, I was like, dude, I gotta interview Tom. So earlier this year, you actually released on a personal favorite label of mine, Dirtybird. So I'm curious, what advice would you have for other artists that are looking to send their music out to their favorite labels? Maybe you can take us through your process and how you did that.
Yeah, if you're just getting started, what I would recommend is that you find labels that have music similar to what you're writing or what you're trying to release. And then what I do is make a spreadsheet, a list of those. I go find out who the A&R is or where you're supposed to submit demos to. And then when you finish a track and you feel like it's ready, which I'll get to that part in a little bit, you pick which labels have a sound that's similar to what you're doing with that song and submit it to those labels. Because you'll find that you're always submitting to the same group of labels. It's just nice to have a list up in front of you instead of scrambling to figure out what they are. You might miss one or whatever.
Did you find it difficult or easy to figure out what labels that you fit in? Because I know for me, as my progression and learning how to make music, your style can change quite often. So how did you figure out which labels were good for you?
Until about 2015, I used to play a lot of different kinds of music. At the same time, I may play a drum bass show, or I might play a house show, or like a techno show. And then I realized that I was spreading myself too thin. I kind of just decided to pigeonhole and focus on one style, and I picked that Dirtybird type sound of tech house because I was really feeling the bass lines.
Nice. Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that you just kind of like figured out, all right, so what is my sound? And then from there started introducing yourself to these labels. Did you feel like or notice any change in your bookings when you got the release on such a huge label? And did you feel like you were able to ask for more money or get better time slots? Why or why not?
Right. So before this, DJing has always been a hobby for me. It wasn't my career path. It's just something I've been, doing for a very long time. And then as soon as we got word back from Dirtybird that they were going to sign this first song that we had sent them, I told my girlfriend, I was like, hey, I think my hobby just got really serious. And so I went ahead, I've got an agent now. He handles the bookings and the fees. Before, I was playing mostly just local and regional shows, and now I'm finding that I have to tailor or cut down my local shows to one a month so I'm not oversaturated locally. And then I'm playing mostly either headlining gigs or supporting headliner gigs outside of the region.
That's pretty badass.
Yeah.
I like that. So you're also a part of the Passionate DJ community, which we tend to bring up a lot on the series. How did you find the group? What influence did it have on you? And do you feel like these types of communities are really important?
I found the Passionate DJ community because I live pretty close to where all the guys who run Passionate DJ live. And I was turned on to the show by playing a gig in Dayton, Ohio, where they're from. And I checked out the podcast, really liked it. I found it to be very informative. And then I went back and listened to the previous, I want to say it was 110 episodes. After listening to the Passionate DJ podcast, I felt like it made me think more about my DJing and to become a little more critical about other aspects other than promoting the way I was doing it, because I come from the old scene where, you pass out flyers, you hand out CDs, everything's totally different now. It's how many likes you get, how many followers you have. So I was able to kind of get up to speed a little bit on that. And I think these communities are really important because it allows people like myself to mentor some of the newer DJs who are in the community, as well as learn from these newer people and get, they have a lot of fresh ideas coming out and things like that. So I kind of think it plays both ways for the new DJ and the older DJ.
And I love seeing that. I love seeing these people that are gaining momentum in their career and getting quite successful, becoming mentors for other people, because I know when I was growing up in the industry, I really would have benefited from something like that. And to see people passing it forward like that is so wonderful. Did you have any mentors maybe that you personally talked to when you're growing up, or maybe just on the sidelines, like, I look up to that artist?
I did. So you probably heard Trip, if you listen to Passionate DJ, he mentions Jason Brooks, Naughty Groove a lot. He and I were really good friends. He taught me how to DJ 20 plus years ago. And, we throw parties together, we hang out together, we DJ together. So we've kind of fostered that relationship over a long period of time.
Right on. And obviously what you're doing is working. You've hit an accomplishment that for a lot of people, that's the end game, right? They want to release on their favorite label so that they can start touring. What advice would you have for artists to keep themselves moving forward, even if they hit those accomplishments, just so that it's not just that one and done kind of thing?
Right. So there's a certain momentum that you have to continue. And, you need to release songs on a regular schedule, otherwise people forget about you. And what I would recommend anyone who's serious about doing this is to treat it like a job. You need to schedule time, and that time needs to be realistic, whether it's an hour a day, 4 hours a day, 1 day a week, whatever it is. You pick the day, you pick the time, and you stick to that schedule. But importantly, you need to be realistic about that so you can actually achieve the focus to work and to produce music.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that you mentioned that, because you came from the situation where it's like, I'm just DJing as a hobby, and then you get this release and you're like, hey, maybe I do need to take this more seriously. Maybe there is some money and actual career in this. And I love that you mentioned routine. I feel like that's so important. And that's hard when we are our own bosses, right?
Right.
Are there any last thoughts, upcoming releases or events that you think that we should know about?
I just finished up 2 remixes. One's for Bad Boy Bill and Ghetto Blaster. That's coming out on Sleazy G. I don't have a release date for that yet. And then Two Tails, which they have a track that I remixed on Envied Records that comes out December 18th. So depending on the timing of this podcast, it may already be just released.
Yeah. Well, we'll make sure we have links if it's already released.
And then I'm playing a New Year's Eve show, but I can't tell you where it is or who else is DJing because it's unreleased. But if you go to my Facebook page, DJ Tom Reed, then you'll be able to get the info when it comes out.
Yes. And we will have all those links for people to check out all of the amazing work you're doing. I've actually gotten a little sneak peek of a couple of those tracks. And yeah, I'm super stoked to be playing them before it's out. Well, Tom, I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down with us today and sharing all your insight into the industry. You said so much in such a short period of time. I'm more than sure people are going to get a lot from this. For the rest of y'all that are tuned into the episode, make sure you let us know in the comments below anything that really stood out for you. And make sure that you don't let no one kill your vibes.